You know, there's just something about the stars. They're mesmerizing, inviting, mysterious. They're beautiful. The stars teach me just how big everything is around me and how small I am. But still, I have a place in it all. I mean, we can take pictures of trees, rivers, wildlife. We enjoy their beauty. But when I turn my camera lens up, there's an entirely different feeling. The clouds and sunlight, the sun rises, the sun sets, they're all striking. They're all amazing. And then there's the stars. I mean, when I set my camera to let in as much light as possible and I slow down the shutter speed from 0.003 of a second to stay open for over 10 seconds or more, the light from the stars fill the camera sensor. The points of light that are thousands of years old by the time we see them. And then the beauty is magnified and we're just awestruck at an incomparable measure. I mean, I watch people stop and stare at star photos unlike any other picture. This video, I'm going to share that experience. I'm going to try to show the how behind the recording. How I took over 1,300 photos to make this one little video clip. How I spent 4 hours at night to develop 20 seconds of motion. I hope you enjoy the journey. You can tell it's getting dark, and I'm set up for an experiment. I'm going to be doing 1,310 photos. I'm set up for a pretty long night tonight. I'm going to leave the camera set at 157 degrees southeast, and with the Sigma 16mm f1.4, I'll be able to cover the entire width of the Milky Way as it comes in, and it'll start in about 11 o'clock, and I'll record it until about 3, and at that time I'll probably shut it down and call it a night. Looking forward to this. It's going to be a long night, but it's going to be a good night. I've had a good dinner. I'll take a nap after I get done before I head out tomorrow morning. Let's get going. With the camera set up, I took a couple of test shots just to make sure I had the scene where I wanted it. I turned the interval shooting on, pressed the shutter, and let the camera do its thing. If you have an A6700 and you've done night lapses, have you had any problems with it? It seems like the long shutter speeds, like I'm using a 10-second shutter speed tonight, and it needs time to process in between each picture. I've been using a 10-second shutter speed with a 1-second interval for 11 seconds in between each photo. I had to bump that up because it just, after about 20 photos, it would just shut down because I think it needed more processing time. I shoot in RAW, but I also have with JPEG, but I have the JPEG to the lowest resolution so that I can just sort of use that like a thumbnail when I'm processing the photos. If you figured anything out, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, I think I've been doing 12 seconds. I bumped it up to 2 seconds in between each photo. And right now it's at 50 photos and still going strong. I'll keep monitoring it and let you know if I think I've got it figured out. Those settings did work, and here's a photo I got from that sequence of shots. The night lapse turned out pretty good. Early in the morning, clouds began to roll in, and it changed the nature of everything. Still, looks pretty nice, I think. Once again, this adventure didn't go as planned. About 1 o'clock, the clouds started rolling in from the southwest. There were some stars still, but you can see the clouds as they rolled into the photos. So I'll get it back to the studio and see what I have. But I did get some amazing pictures of the moon as it was rising. I did a focus stack of the moon in front of a tree, and what I tried to do was I focused on the moon, got the craters, and it was just a beautiful picture. And then I focused on the tree that I was trying to get in front of it, and got some detail from the limbs that was shining through, that the light was illuminating. So yeah, it was still a magical night. And then about 2:30, I thought, well, the Milky Way was standing up, you know, about probably not maybe 90 degrees, but a good 80 to 85 degrees. It was standing up, and so I got pictures of that, and I'll get it back into the studio, run it through the editing software, and see what we have. Well, I wanted to bring you into the studio and share with you how I'm going to process this time lapse. When you have this many photos, you really have to be organized. And so what I start by doing is creating a whole different folder. And inside that folder, I build 3 folders. One of my folders is Elk River Night Lapse raw photos. And that's where I'll put just all of my raw photos right out of the camera and stick them in this file. I'm going to process these, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But then I also build a folder called Elk River Night Lapse Processed, and all the photos that I process, I'll put into that Elk River Night Lapse Processed file. And then when I move those over and I put it all together into a night lapse, I'll be putting that little video into the final folder called the Elk River Night Lapse Video folder. I use 2 programs for this. I'll be using Affinity Photo for editing my still images, and then I'll take all of those still images once they're processed, move that over into Final Cut Pro, and that's where I'll create the night lapse. Show you how I'm going to do that. I'll open up Affinity 2. There's a lot of different photo editing tools that you can use, and they work fairly much the same. But what I'm going to do with Affinity Photo 2, I'm going to come in here. We'll pull one photo from this file. Just start with the first photo, pull it open. And then I'm going to create what's called a macro. A macro will be a recording of all of the steps that I use to edit this particular picture. And then I can take that macro, I can import all of the other photos in and use the same settings, and I can batch process, and it saves me so much time when you're dealing with over 1,000 photos. To do each one individually would be a nightmare. So this is the way I do it. I just pull it in here. I go ahead and develop it from there. I'm going to open 2 windows. I'm going to open the library window, where I save all of my macros, and then I'm going to come into the windows and I'm going to open the macro window. When you hit the red button, you start recording. Now, this isn't a time recording, this is a steps recording, and it starts recording each step that I take to process this raw image. And the way I do it is I begin with the brightness and the contrast on this. I'm going to bring up the contrast a little bit. Really not going to bring the brightness up any. Come to shadows and highlights. And here I'll check the highlights, bring it up just a tad, bring the shadows up just a little. I like to play with the curves, and then sometimes all I play with will be just the master curve And on a night lapse like this, I'm just going to pull that down a little bit, and that gives you a better contrast in there, just like that. Sometimes it looks a little bit too green. This is actually looking pretty good. I think I'm just going to take and go with that right there. So with this, I'll stop the recording. I'll add this to my library. I'm going to call it Elk River Night Lapse macro. Okay. And now there it is. It's added to my macro library. So we'll just close this. Not going to save this one. Now what we'll do is we're going to do a batch job. And with the batch job, you get this window, and I'm going to add all of these pictures from the night lapse. I'm just going to highlight them all, open them in here. And then what I will do is I'm just going to save them as a JPEG. I'm going to save them into my file that I have set up already. That is the Elk River. Let's see. Elk River processed. Save them right into there. Just saving JPEGs. Come down here, my Elk River Night Lapse macro. I'm going to apply that, and then I'm going to hit OK, and it will start processing all of those photos. And when they're processed, I'll come back and we'll continue on. When the job is complete, you can close this, no longer needing to keep it open. And then you have all of your processed photos in the single file. What we're going to do here is open up Final Cut Pro. We'll start a new project. Let's call this project Elk River Night Lapse. There it is. What we're going to do is we're going to download the Elk River Night Lapse, get our processed file open, processed photo file. Click on the first one, come all the way down to the bottom. Click on the last one, import them all. All these imported. Let's do a Command A, and we'll just put those on the timeline. I sort of like to go through real quick and make sure that they're all in order. Looks like they are. So now we'll change the duration. Control D, make it 1 frame. And we're setting this up for 24 frames per second. And then we hit enter. And then I'm going to take and do a right click. And I'm going to make it a new compound clip. I'm going to take this, I'm going to upload it. Night Lapse. Put it into my Night Lapse folder, and I'll save it. Once it's loaded up, we come here, click on it. It's a 22-second clip, and this gives you the video that we just created out of all of those photos, stitching them together. And here are the results. That's how we make this night lapse. If you have any questions, If you have any comments, have any suggestions on how to do this even better, please let me know. In the comments, I am always wanting to learn. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to look for next week. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay on the path. God bless you.